Welcome to the Shock Your Potential podcast with your host, Michael Sherlock. We all have potential, but sometimes we need inspiration to get us to our peak performance. Whether you are starting out in your career, ready to move up the corporate ladder, or taking the leap into entrepreneurship, Michael's guests provide powerful tools and resources to shock your potential. Shock Your Potential is a global professional development training company committed to your unique journey. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com. Listen in to today's expert.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Shock Your Potential, where all month long we are not only saying, thank goodness that horrible year is behind us, and we got plans for 2021 and beyond, but we're also going to be very flexible and make sure we can handle anything that comes our way. And my guest today is going to talk about something really unique. And many of you that are my listeners and followers may find this as a potential career path for yourself. So we're going to learn a lot of things. I already was asking her stupid questions before we began, and she very graciously did not laugh at me too loudly. So joining me today is Nicki Krawczyk, and she's a copywriter with 15 years, more than 15 years, we don't need to say how many, of experience writing for multi-billion-dollar companies, solopreneurs like me, and every size business in between. She also teaches people to become professional copywriters and build really thriving and really interesting careers in the midst. And she does that through her website, which, get a load of this business name, filthyrichwriter.com. I love it. And I know we're going to talk more about that. She also has a comprehensive copywriting academy through that. And for her being filthy rich, which I think is great just to hit, and I know we'll talk about it, probably doesn't mean exactly what you think. For her, it means having a job you love, being good at what you do, and making great money at it. So Nicki, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I loved the moment that we got you booked and I looked at your email. I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. Plus I get to ask you all kinds of questions. And as I fessed up before we started taping, I really didn't know what copywriting was all about until you just explained to me that it's actually writing ad copy. So that's brilliant. But I've given a little bit of an overview of who you are with your highlights of your bio, but tell us a little bit about you, your business, and how you help people and businesses to shock their potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So copywriting, which, it's a lot of people don't know the term. They read copy every single day, but a lot of people don't know the term. Copywriting is marketing and advertising writing. It is writing that is designed to make a connection, really. It's not about like salesy push, which doesn't work anyway, right? It's about making a connection between people who have a want or a need and the company or organization that has the solution to that want or that need. And our writing helps make that connection by using words that resonate with that target audience. So it's a lot of fun. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love how you clarified that, because I teach sales all the time. And I always run into people who go, I'm not a salesperson. I work for a nonprofit. I, do this. I provide that. I work for a church. And I'm like, everybody sells. Everybody sells. But that doesn't mean you have to be pushy at it. And I think that's why people go, oh, I'm not in sales, because they think it is aligned with pushy. But it's exactly what you said, that sales is that beautiful sweet spot where you found what somebody wants and you know that you can deliver it. And that's beautiful. And when you do it through words, it even conveys more emotions in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
I love it. So keep going. Tell me more.
Yeah. So as you said, I've been doing this I was just thinking the other day, I'm going to have to up that to 20 years real soon, maybe a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. And I've been working with all different types of companies, which is really fantastic. But the thing is that I, as someone who's always loved to write, as I'm sure some of your listeners and viewers do as well, I, for a long time, thought that writers couldn't make any money. And part of the reason I thought that is because literally people told me that. I think I was in middle school and a friend's...
I can't do that. You're never going to make a living at it.
Well, I was in middle school and at that time I thought I wanted to be a screenwriter. And he said, oh, what do you want to do? And I said, oh, I think I want to be a screener. And he said, you should probably tell people you're going into business. And I went...
Okay. Now, first of all, let's just have a moment with that. First, I'm so impressed that in middle school you wanted to be a screenwriter. Let's acknowledge that because that is so creative and wonderful. But shame on that teacher for saying, tell him something
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah. Well, that was actually a friend's uncle, and I have other stories about professors and that kind of thing. But quite frankly, the last laugh is on them. I'm doing quite well. Yeah, it's copywriting for some reason, partially because a lot of people don't know about it, even though we are literally reading copy every single day.
every single day.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people think, well, writing means being a novelist, or it means being a blogger, or it means being a journalist. And very sadly, I completely get that. Very sadly, it is hard to make a really good living as a journalist or a novelist or a blogger or anything like that, or, just writing blog posts. But copywriting is very valuable. And, as a business owner, your message is crucial. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And so business owners and organizations and big companies understand how important that is. And because what we do can be directly tied to results for that business or organization, companies are willing to pay us well for it.
And that is so true because you can see, people talk about ROI all the time. And I think that most people really don't understand it because ROI means a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, good copy sells a product or service or an idea. And you can make the direct correlation when you're measuring. And right now, my marketing director is, we're testing things out side by side. We've gotten our message to the point that we really like what messages we use in different mediums. But what we haven't tested, and we are testing now, we haven't tested fully yet, is, okay, what time of day and who's seeing it and how do we know? And if we're paying for the ads, what does that mean versus a Twitter post? Or, so how we're reaching people is amazing. And she's doing this incredible deep dive to really analyze, what's the ROI from our existing followers? What's the ROI from somebody who's never heard of us? And how are we measuring that to see whether or not things are sticking and then converting to sales?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that part of this kind of, in a way, makes our jobs a little bit easier in terms of pitching ourselves to companies, because we can help make a big difference in the company, even if you're just thinking in terms of, solopreneur or a smaller business. If they're sending everyone through their sales page and that sales page is not performing very well, get a trained professional in there and they'll be able to turn that around.
Oh, it is so true. And I was just thinking, selfishly, I was thinking about picking your brain on what we're doing with trying to promote the 2 of my books so that I can sell more books.
I'm here for you. Pick my brain away.
Okay, good. No, we'll get there along the way. So what made you then get passionate about teaching other people to get into this as a business?
Well, so about 8 years or so ago, I was working for a company, working on staff, and they were starting a new website, and it was going to require a ton of copy. Basically, what we figured out was that I needed to build a copy team, and I needed to build that copy team like yesterday. So I poached a couple of writers off their editorial team, and I hired a couple of very green junior copywriters, and brought them all together. And essentially what I did was every day we would learn about copy. I would take them through a lesson. They would bring in examples. We would discuss it. I'd give them little homework assignments. And what ended up happening over a couple of weeks was I took them from not really knowing much at all about copywriting to be able to write, to being able to write it effectively. And and I made them build out portfolio sites because I knew they weren't going to work for me forever. And by the end of that, I thought, you know what? There should be something like this out there. I was very fortunate in that a billion years ago when I was in high school, my dad was a marketing director and would bring home extra work. So I really kind of got the fundamentals of copywriting then. Of course, it wasn't until years later that I realized I could be a professional copywriter. But there was nothing that was a real professional course. There were a lot of like, if you can write a letter like this, you can make 6 figures, that kind of crud. But there wasn't one for real professionals who wanted to work on an in-house team, or who wanted to work for an agency, or who wanted to freelance. So basically I put together a course that was everything I would have wanted when I was getting started and beyond.
Oh my goodness. When you were talking about, you can do this if you can write this letter, it reminded me of when I was, you talked about a billion years ago for high school. It's probably an extra billion for me. But I remember when I was in grade school, there was this commercial always on TV where they'd show like on the back of a matchbook cover, like how to doodle, the dog. And if you could doodle the dog and doodle the person, whatever, you could send it in, and then, you could become an animator or whatever. And I always thought, what is this about? Who sends in for this? And I have always to this day wondered ever what happened to that company and who actually would say, okay, based on that, I'm going to change my entire career and I'm going to do, cartoons for somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing, if it sounds too good to be true, like, oh, you don't have to learn anything, just write a sales letter like this and you're good to go, which by the way, nobody does online sales letters anymore. Sales pages, yes, sometimes print sales letters, but like nobody does that. Yeah.
I love it. So when people come to you, and they say, hey, I want to learn this, what's prompting them? What's in there? And I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons, but there's usually some common themes for people who are looking at a career change, or maybe getting a little bit more niche. Maybe they were in marketing already and advertising, but this is a lot, more fine tuned. So, what kind of reasons do they have coming to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By and large, I really would say that it's a lot of people who, like I was saying, who didn't ever think they could make money as a writer, who've always loved writing. They're always the person that people go to when they need something rewritten, or the person you send an email to and go, do I sound really mean in this email? How do I make this sound more professional? How to make it sound like I don't hate my boss? That kind of thing. Or hey, can you write my cover letter for me to apply this job? But they never thought that they could make a career out of it. For some reason, copywriting it's a real career. People are doing it every single day, Mad Men but even outside of that, people are freelancing at it. People are doing it in-house, but for some reason, maybe it's because you can't major in it in college, but for some reason, a lot of people haven't heard of it. So when they hear that there's a career that they actually could make money at, and they can use that writing ability, it's really kind of a revelation. So that's what I get a lot of people going, oh, wow, that's a thing. Wow.
Well, and that's why I asked you the question before we started taping. Is, in my viewpoint, a copywriter was somebody who, did whatever legal stuff was to get that little C in the circle next to, your business name or the name of your product or, whatever. And I'm like, and I know that's different than a trademark, but that's what I was thinking. So as we started talking and you're like, well, that's not exactly it. I figure I've been in sales and marketing my entire career and I didn't know what a copywriter was officially either.
Yeah. Well, the spelling is different. So that helps if you're seeing it written out, copy RIGHT versus WRIT. Anyway, I'm a writer. That's Don't make me spell out loud.
Copyright versus a copywriter. Okay, look at me. You know what? It's only my second cup of coffee today.
Well,
I need a few more.
We never stop learning, right? But yeah, that's the thing, is that, not every business and organization obviously is going to hire a copywriter. Of course not. I would never make that kind of promise. However, every business and organization needs a copywriter, needs someone to put together good messaging. Because as we were saying, you could have the best product in the world. You could have amazing pictures, but if your message is off, nobody's going to buy it. But on the other hand, you could have like a white page with black text and that's it. And if your messaging is good, people will buy.
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah. We're revamping my website right now. And it's funny because the first time I had somebody build it out for me, and, it kind of had some things that worked. And then the second time I had somebody who, was closer to my message, and they kept asking me to provide stuff, but I wasn't really using the right words. And I was thinking more about how it looked, or, where you click on this. And so, we were in the process of getting going with this, and I just kind of put a halt on it. And I said, I'm going to stop and I'm going to take the next 2 months to basically, like, I've got pieces of paper everywhere, not what does it look like, but message that I need here And then you figure out how it all goes together with the buttons and the colors. But how does my message need to flow? And I know that sounds, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that right now, except for my listeners know that I embarrass myself all the time. So it's not really that big of a deal, but it's the first time, I started my business almost 5 years ago. And now I'm finally getting to the point where when we relaunch, hopefully in January with the new website, that it will actually be the message that we're trying to convey that matches what we do. Because there's a huge disconnect.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon. I think most business owners leave copy until the end, right? Like, well, I know what I want it to look like. I want it to have this feeling. I want to have this great picture of me here. And I want it to, but it's like, all right, well, what's it going to say? Oh, and partially too, because it's so hard to write copy for ourselves. I mean, it's challenging to write copy for clients, of course, as well. But for writing it for ourselves is very difficult. So I think a lot of business owners just push it off into the last thing. So I would say that's not uncommon at all.
It's true. And yet now if I looked backwards, I mean, my business has evolved since when I started, because in the beginning I was just really doing it to speak and, promote my books and that type of thing. And now we've really evolved to a different kind of organization. But I think if I would have taken more time at the beginning to really think through it, not that it would look like it's going to look now, but the evolution of my business might have taken a faster turn too, because the words that we use to describe ourselves are really, really important. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have them down that way, then it's really hard to map out where you're going. On the flip side, you think you know where you're going, to your point, you don't use the right words, you're not going to get there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The beginning of a project, like you were saying, a copywriter is going to sit down and talk with the business owner, ask them a lot of questions, and really kind of in a way force them to think things through, gently forcing, but force them to think things through and say, okay, well, what is your real benefit? What are they going to get out of working with you or taking the action we want them to take here? And I think that it's true for a lot of business owners, it's the first time that they've actually been, again, I keep saying forced, and that's not really the impression I want to give, but maybe the first opportunity to sit down and really talk about and really think it through. Okay, well, what do I want to say about myself here? What is it that separates me from my competition? And then a great copywriter is going to take that information, ask any more questions that they need, and then make it sound like you. A good copywriter doesn't sound like themselves. They sound like their clients. They sound like you.
Right. And, I think it's okay that you're using the word force, because, when I talk about shocking your potential, I always use that in context of, shocking is that jolt that all of a sudden, wait, hold on, what's going on? Okay, I've got to do something. It's that kick in the pants that you might not have given yourself. And so I often tell, like when I hired my assistant a year ago, and I said, I need you to boss me around. And she's like, oh, I can totally do that. And then after a while, I'm like, you're not bossing me enough. She's like, I know, but you're really busy. I'm like, stop it. I need you to boss me around.
Tell me to stop wasting time on this. Yeah, I get that completely.
Exactly. And, so, we've talked it through differently, but that's that sense of somebody, when you don't have it all pulled together yet, you need somebody to kick you in the pants and help get it aligned. Otherwise, you waste time.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that a professional will bring to it. It's copywriters. Yes, we work for you and we provide a service, but we should be your partners. We should be coming in and saying, okay, this is this project. Also, you might want to consider this. And also, as we're talking this through, I'm wondering this. So it shouldn't just be, all right, here, do this for me, write this. I mean, it can't be, of course, but it's a better relationship for both people if that copywriter works with you as a partner to help get the best possible project.
Right. Very good. I love it. So, this year, or this month, the theme that we're using is New Year, flexible focus. And the reason that I picked that for our theme was that, number one, we all needed to leave that last year behind. So close the door, bye-bye. And I think we all start out with this new hope for every new year. But we all had great hopes for last year. And I know that I talked to so many people that were going into 2020 last year that were saying, okay, this is the year and these are the pivotal moments. And I know for my business last year was the pivotal moment until March, whatever, because we had just turned the corner on so many big gigs and so many great, huge clients and so many things that revolved around me getting on an airplane. and going somewhere to train people. And so obviously that changed. So this month I'm trying to keep us all, focused on the fact that we should all have our goals. We should all have plans, but we need to learn something from last year. And that is flexibility can be one of our greatest competitive advantages if we use it. So, what are your thoughts? How would you, encourage people to keep flexible so that they can go into this year and really feel like they've evolved as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that one of the things that we were starting to learn, and then 2020 really forced us to learn, is that you can't depend on a full-time on-staff job for safety. And I think that that's something that people were starting to kind of figure out and starting to come around to. But I think a lot of careers that people thought, well, so, no problem. Like, you'll always be able to find work in a restaurant. You'll always be able to, or restaurant will be a fallback job. This disrupted all kinds of industries, not just restaurants and travel, but disrupted all kinds of industries, and people who thought that they had careers that they would be able to stay in for as long as they felt like it, all of a sudden discovered that they didn't have that job anymore, or they were furloughed or something like that. Right. And I think that something that we all just have to accept is that we need to have a job that we can do as a freelancer. Maybe that's something that you do full-time as well, or maybe it's kind of a side hustle, a back pocket career that you pull it out when you need it. Nobody's going to take care of us if we don't take care of us. It's, and the great thing too about having that flexibility is that it's there if you need it. Thank goodness it's there and you've got it, and you can ramp up that freelance work and you can keep the money coming in. Or if you don't need it, then great. Then you can bring in some extra cash, pay for a vacation when we can travel again, all that kind of thing, or, save for kids' college, all that kind of stuff. But you are not stuck with, well, my salary is this, and maybe I'll get a 3% cost of living raise next year. And boy, I hope bonuses come through this year. I mean, when you're working on staff, when you work harder, the company may make more money, but you don't make any more money. Maybe you get a bonus, but it's also dependent on however many other people working hard for the company to do well. But when you are a freelancer, you are in control of your income. You are in control of the opportunities and how much work you take on and what you charge and all that kind of thing. And I think that yes, is it a little bit more work to build up a freelance, whether it be a side hustle or something you want to transition to? Yeah, absolutely. But the flexibility that it gives you, I used to talk about, and I can't remember who came up with the term so I should look it up, but the term FU money, as in you get yourself into a crummy job, or something that looks like it's going to be great, or your boss switches out or something like that, and all of a sudden you go, wait, I can't stand it here. But the great thing is that I'm getting all riled up because I get so excited about it. But a freelance career, or even just side hustle, it lets you say, all right, I'm not taking this anymore. I don't want to be here, and I'm not doing this anymore, so I'm out.
Right. Or at least if you decide to stick with it, that you're not so emotionally charged by it all the time. Well, and as you were talking to, I was thinking, I was trying to come up with a number and I don't remember it. I just saw it the other day about the number of women who are mothers who in 2020 didn't lose their jobs, but had to walk away from their jobs because of also having to do homeschooling and having, a greater, working from home, and the kids, in school from home, even part way back and forth. And it's, we saw that actually with my family, with my son and his girlfriend and their kids, is that, when she got let go from her job, well, she could have gone back, but we knew the kids weren't going back to school. So it was their decision, but we were supporting them in that. She made the decision to start school again and stay home and take care of the kids. And we're so fortunate that happened, but it's really tough on them. But it just makes me think about what this option could be for a lot of women, for anybody, but a lot of women who found themselves in that situation, who don't know, when it's going to get better, or when we might get kids back to school full time, or, when her job might come back in an office, that something like this could be a really great alternative to have more control over your life and also be able to take care of those other needs that fall to a lot of fall both to men and women, but traditionally we still see women bearing the heavier burden of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's we won't go too far down this, but it's a self-perpetuating cycle. If men are already making $1 to a woman 70 cents, I think that's exactly roughly where it is. Where they're faced with, all right, somebody has to stay home with the kids. Well, often if he's already making more, it's going to make more sense for him to keep the job and for her to stay home. But yeah, to have something that you can do part-time, or that you can do in the evenings, you can do it in the weekends, you can do it, do it while the kids are on another Zoom next to you, so that you can do both at the same time. It's an incredible opportunity and adds that flexibility that I think you're right. Unfortunately, it's falling to a lot of women right now that they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I know there's a lot of studies already in motion to kind of identify what's going to happen to the gap even further, and not even just in terms of pay, but career trajectory. Like, how far can you go? And those are things that none of us saw coming out of this, obviously, but it's something that we've got to pay attention to. So I think it's great that you are so passionate about it. It's clear, and I think there's a lot of people who have learned that they can work remotely anyway. So why not work for yourself remotely if you have the opportunity to do something that you'd really enjoy that'll also be financially beneficial to you? Mm-hmm. And let me ask you one more question about this. So, when people go through your program and then they're trained and ready to go, do you help them figure out how to transition, how to, start getting gigs? Are there things that sometimes those people that are, learning under you can, even work alongside you? What happens to them when they're done with the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's a career, right? So it's a full process. I would be doing a major disservice if I was like, all right, here, now you know how to do it. Best of luck to you. So a big part of what we teach is how to land your first clients, how to get experience, and then how to parlay that into more and more clients, and not through, sites like Upwork or Fiverr, those kind of things where people are looking for the best at the cheapest they can get. But we really teach people how to find their own opportunities and provide a lot of value to potential customers, potential clients, so that those potential clients actually welcome the pitch emails that our students send.
Very good. Excellent. Well, gosh, this is fascinating. I can't wait to see how your business continues to grow. And I know we'll have all of your contact information on the show notes, but just in case somebody wants to type in right now because they're like, this is my new career, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find us at filthyricwriter.com, and then on Filthy Rich Writer across, Instagram and Facebook. But if they are interested and they think this might be something they'd like to dip their toes into, we have a free video training at freecopywritingtraining.com. It talks about how to land your first freelance clients, but if they're not there yet, don't worry about it. Still all kinds of important information.
Excellent. Nicki, thank you. And so before we go, do you have any last words of wisdom or pearls of advice for my listeners and viewers?
Yeah, actually, my favorite piece of advice, and I suppose after having this whole conversation, it sounds a little self-serving, so I'm going to preface that. But it really goes across a lot of different areas of life. But one of the most important things I've learned is to only take advice from people who are actually successful at what you want to do. There are a lot of people who will give you a lot of different, your perpetually single friend who has the really big opinions about your marriage, your Uncle Phil, who's never started a business in his life, but has so much to tell you. But as soon as
leadership sales consultants that have never done leadership or sales. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah. Life coaches whose only thing that they figured out is how to become a life coach. Yes, I agree. So it can be very hard, because often the people who know the least are the people who are the loudest and the most forceful in what they have to tell you. But the sooner that people can learn to start, and this is a lesson I keep learning myself, but the sooner we can all learn to listen and nod and say, oh, thank you so much. Very helpful. Super. And then completely tune it out, the better we'll be.
I love it. I so agree on so many levels. Nicki, thank you so much for sharing your story and what you do. I'm just very happy to be connected, and I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Oh, thank you, Mike. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Shock Your Potential podcast. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com, including details on Michael's 2 best-selling books. Tell me more, how to ask the right questions and get the most out of your employees and sales mixology, while the most potent sales and customer experiences follow a recipe for success. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and like us today.